Morning. Thank you for adjusting your schedule today to be here to accommodate my schedule. We're going to do some forward bends today. And one of the things that really makes forward bends deeper and actually kind of a more satisfying experience, well, there's two things, but one is to twist before you bend. Twist the spine before you bend directly forward. So we're going to do a lot of kind of sandwiching some twists around our forward bends today. And then the other thing that can make the forward bend more satisfying is to only do a half forward bend. A lot of us get more than enough forward flexion just due to lifestyle. So we're also going to explore the half versus the full forward bend. And you might decide that you're just going to back off and do the half forward bend. So those two things are kind of the theme of our forward bending class today. We'll start like we always do, just sitting up tall. Try not to use the back of the chair. You can take as much of the seat of the chair as you need for support. And then just take a moment to move the flesh out from underneath your sitting bones. And there's another way you can do this besides just kind of pulling the flesh underneath there. You can actually grab your thighs with two hands on one thigh, and you're going to roll the inner thigh down and the outer thigh up. And one teacher I know, she calls this version of moving the flesh, she calls it spreading your abundance. So we're spreading our abundance out on the chair. And you might feel that you have more of a stable purchase on the chair when you do that. And then just take a moment to put your shoulders in line with your hips. So normally we kind of round our shoulders forward, we kind of have them sitting forward. So move the shoulders back above the hips. And also if you sense your skull is kind of hanging a little bit more forward than it should be, align your skull above your spine. And then begin to close your eyes. And you're going to look toward your cheeks just to give your brain a signal to become a bit more passive. For most of us, we hold the belly in somewhat of a contracted state. So just bringing awareness to your abdomen. And if you sense you're kind of holding the belly in or constricting the abdomen, just use a couple of inhales to help relax the space of the belly. We also carry a lot of our emotional tension, visceral tension in the belly. And so when we're under a lot of emotional stress, we might also have some contraction going on in the abdomen, which can really limit your breathing. And as you just kind of pay attention to this area, we're going to think about the diaphragm. And our diaphragm actually sits as low as the pelvic floor, as high as the soft palate at the roof of the mouth. So as you take that journey of in-breath, just imagine it starting near the pelvic floor and finishing up near the soft palate, so that we kind of visualize the breath coming up the body. Sometimes we push the belly forward when we breathe in, and we really want to kind of take the breath up rather than out. Just this act of breath attention is really a great way to harness your mind, which likes to kind of time travel. So it just brings the mind into a present state. It gives the mind a bone, something to chew on, something to do. And meanwhile, just kind of taking inventory of anything you notice. We always want to kind of get as much insight into our present state as we can before we practice, so that we can practice with, in yoga, there's a word called ahimsa, which means non-harming. So we can honor how we're starting and we can move with that awareness. And when you feel ready, you can bring your hands together in front of your heart. And do your best to keep your chest forward, lifted, spread as you bow towards your heart. And release your hands. When you're ready, lift your head, let your eyes come open. You're welcome. Okay, so we're going to start with a twist that will maybe give us a little bit of a deeper experience in our child's pose. So we're going to take our left hand to our right thigh, and then you might have to bring your feet a little closer together. You're going to take your right hand to the back of your chair somewhere. It doesn't have to be anywhere specific, just kind of grabbing on, getting a little bit of a hold. And then on an exhale, turning as well as you can to the right. And just always remember when you twist that we want to kind of stabilize the sacrum. So you might kind of gently grip the abdominal muscles to support stabilizing the sacrum. We're not trying to rotate the pelvis so much. And hopefully in doing that, you bring a little more mobility up the spine into the thoracic spine. And just take a moment to witness or feel or sense your left outer side body near the armpit, rib cage, maybe just kind of in your mind's eye, sensing those outer ribs coming forward, moving toward the right a little bit more. And then on an inhale, come back to center, and we'll come into a chair version of child's pose. So feet and knees together. And you can either just begin just kind of getting a sense of how your spine responds to this with your arms on your thighs, or you might directly come down, just let your arms dangle. But sometimes we need a little kind of modified position when we're beginning a practice. Again, that's why it's important to just keep your attention on what's really true for you right now, not relying on what you did yesterday or last time you practiced. And when we have the pressure to the front body, of course, the breath gets to find its way into the back body a little bit more. So maybe envisioning in your mind's eye again, the breath kind of filling out the back body. Feeling some opening between the back ribs. And then you're going to help yourself come up. So if your arms are hanging low, you might take your hands to your thighs and just kind of bring yourself up. And then we'll attempt to do the same thing to the other side. So this time we're going to take right hand to left thigh, left hand onto the back of the chair somewhere. Maybe kind of imagining the hip bones squeezing together to support the pelvis staying stabilized. And when you imagine your rib cage moving, especially those right side ribs coming around, try to think about the action, the primary action is coming from the spine directly. And the rib cage just kind of floats and follows that action. It just kind of follows what the spine is doing. Just 2 more exhales here. And when you inhale next, you can use that to kind of bring you back around. And again, you're going to come forward. Just see about maybe taking it a little bit farther. Maybe your body says not to do that. So we have to really be discerning as we practice what is good for us. And this decision doesn't come from the ego. It comes from really sensing into the body. And so we'll just take it a step farther. Again, you're gonna, if your arms are hanging low, use your hands to your thighs to come up. And step your feet wide. Good. So now that we don't have our thighs kind of blocking our torso, we should be able to go a little bit lower, but you might again get that signal. It's not wise to do that. Another thing you can do if you feel like you can go lower, but you need a little more support, is you would put some blocks under your hands. So we're going to be coming forward with our hands to the floor. But before you do that, make sure your knees are wide and your toes are turned out about 45 degrees. You want your heels right underneath the line of your knees. And we do tend to kind of become knock-kneed here. So we have to do a little work to keep your knees pressing back, because they do try to kind of come together. So you just have to, and one way you can notice that you're doing this is that your feet feel balanced. If you're feeling all the pressure on your inner, your big toe ball mound or your inner heel, that's a sign you need to press outward a little bit more. So come forward and then bring your hands to the floor. And again, you can put something under the hands if the floor feels too far away. You can crawl your hands forward just to give your spine a little more length. And then just let your head surrender down. You don't have to hold your head up. Just let the torso kind of cascade toward the floor, and the head, it's like a bowling ball. It's like a prop. It helps the spine draw away from kind of its normal direction that it faces gravity. We get a break from that. Using the spine and lengthening the spine away from, lengthening the skull away from the tailbone. Just stay with it a couple more breaths. And so when we're folded forward like this, we don't want to kind of gang up on the spine when we come up. So I want you to really grip your abdominal muscles, like their particle board, just kind of wrapping all those muscles around the spine. Take your hands to your thighs, and with those abdominal muscles engaging and supporting the spine, come up. We don't want to roll up, because that can be a lot of pressure on the spine. We want to kind of come up with a nice straight spine. And now we're going to gently help ourselves up. If you're dizzy, always take some time to resolve that before standing. So stand up when you're ready. And sorry, we're going to be working with the seat of the chair, just to get our flexion and extension in. So sometimes we do that seated, but today we're going to do it standing, the cat-cow action. So you want to line yourself up pretty much with your wrists under your shoulders and your heels under your hips. Your feet are at least hip distance apart. They might go as wide as your chair legs, but don't go any wider than that. And begin from a neutral spine, so you're not overly arched or rounded. And you're going to take the first exhale and round your back. You might bend your knees as well. It's as if you're looking for your belly button. So curl your chin in. And then inhale, straighten your legs a little bit more and look forward. That's important, because then we include the neck in the extension here. Exhale again, maybe bending the knees, hollowing the belly. And inhale, straightening the legs out a bit more and looking forward. And just moving with your own breath. There's no rush. So really lingering in each side of this cat-cow with the breath. We don't need to rush to the next movement. This is a really great set of poses to help get you kind of abiding by the flow of the breath. Oftentimes the brain is demanding the breath to catch up with whatever it's doing. Here in yoga, we let the breath really lead. And let's do it one more time. So wherever you are, just do each cat-cow one more time. And then you'll just kind of find your way back to a neutral position. So we're going to barrel roll next, which is, I like to use the image of being stuck inside a jar of peanut butter that is turned on its side. Okay, the jar of peanut butter is almost empty, so your job is to scrape it out with your body. So it's kind of a rolling motion. We're going to push our hips to the right. We're going to arch the back through the middle. We're going to push our hips to the left, and then we're going to round up through the middle. Push your hips to the right, arch your back through the middle, push your hips to the left, and round. So you're in a sideways jar of peanut butter, trying to scrape it out with your hips. And we're moving, notice how we're moving in one direction right now. We will be switching direction in a moment. So one of the ideas with forward bending is that the more mobility we can bring to the spine, lateral twisting, then the deeper we can go with that forward flexion. So we're trying to get a lot of mobility into the spine, kind of at the offset of this class. So now find a place to switch direction. It can be anywhere. And then you'll push off to the left and roll through the middle, to the right. Just exploring space with this particular movement pattern. Also noticing, taking note of where you're feeling more as you move through this kind of barrel roll movement pattern. Notice what kind of spots you're feeling a lot of sensation. And you might linger there. You might just kind of explore that. You don't have to quickly pass through it. You might linger there and just kind of lean into that sensation and give it some breath. But you might notice as you repeat this, you start to become more mobile, the movement becomes more smooth, and you start to maybe notice the sensation, the hot spots are not as hot. Okay, so I notice a few of you are getting tired in the wrist. So let's come up for a moment because we have one more thing to do with the hands down. So come up, put your shoulders in line with your hips. And just imagine your whole back body is against a wall. So oftentimes the head is more forward than that wall and the shoulders are more forward than that wall. So we have to pay particular attention to rolling the shoulders back and to adjusting the head back. Okay, meanwhile, bring the buttocks forward. So if there is a horizontal line across the mid buttock, compress it toward the front body, move it in toward the front body. And then conversely, bring your front thighs into your back thighs. So we make ourselves very compact in mountain pose. And we also, of course, are aligning the body. And when we do those two things, compaction and alignment, it shows up as ease. So in yoga, we don't use mirrors. We sense that we're in the correct position. So you can sense ease. It's a pretty good sign that you're in a pose, mountain pose in integrity. All right, so let's go back one more time to the chair just to find that downward dog. So instead of the feet, instead of the shoulders right over the wrist, you're going to walk back until you kind of stop. There's a point in your body that just says stop, that's it. Your legs should still be right underneath you. You should still have your heels right under your hips. And you're just drawing your hips away from your wrists. And you're keeping your head relaxing. It might start to kind of come in between the arms. You're going to work into a straighter leg, but that being said, you might need to have bent knees. So honor the needful in your body. We have gravity bearing down on our back body, which might show up as collapsing the front body. So I just want you to bring a little bit of contraction into the front rib cage, kind of tightening in or corseting in and filling out the back body a little bit. So we're equalizing the effects of gravity. And go ahead and walk yourself toward the chair. Wonderful. So the way this will go, we're going to do 3 different standing poses today. The way this will go is we're going to start with the half, then we'll do some twists, and then we'll do the full. So if you decide you're not doing full today, you'll come back to the half, and I'll remind you of that when we get there. But we're going to do first Parsvottanasana, which is our 2 straight legs. One is forward, one is back. And we're going to start with the half pose using the higher part of the chair. So your right foot goes kind of under the chair, your left foot steps back. And as long as you have 2 chair legs on your mat, you should be fine. We're just gonna have either your hands or your wrists on the back of the chair. So your back is kind of level with the floor. It's more level with the floor. Your right foot is closer to the right edge of the mat. Your left foot is closer to the left edge of the mat. And this allows you to rotate your hips so they become square. So make sure you're kind of pushing back into your right hip side and you're pulling forward a little bit with your left hip side. Think about your hips like a steering wheel. If we move one, the opposite side moves oppositely. Okay, so this is a half forward bend, meaning that we have a flat or even concave lumbar spine. A full forward bend, we round. Use your arms to keep the sides of the torso long. So keep the arms really long, try to straighten out the elbows. We'll go ahead and you're going to help yourself move forward. So you might bend the knee, you might grab onto your chair a little bit more sturdy. Bring your left foot forward. We're going to just do everything on the right side first, just so we can feel the effects, and then we'll repeat everything to the left side. But for stage 2, where we're going to twist, we're going to use the seat of the chair. So turn around the chair and go back into your right foot forward, left foot stepping back. And you're going to pivot your left toes out a little bit more to point more directly to the left edge of the mat. We're going to start with triangle pose. Your right hand will be underneath your right shoulder. And remember, if you have any wrist issues, you can always be on a fist. And if your hand doesn't like your fist into the seat of the chair, if that material isn't comfortable in your body, you can always put a pad down there or a blanket so it doesn't hurt. We don't want it to hurt. And then start to take your left hand onto your left hip. And you're just rotating your spine to look off to the left. And even though you're not looking at your right knee, just kind of think about the right knee. We want it to point out to the right toes. Remember that knee likes to kind of turn inward mostly for most of us. So you might just revolve the flesh of your right thigh from the inner thigh over to the outer thigh. Do your best to kind of bring the right side ribs out of the shadows into the light. And then gently begin to turn back to face your chair. And you're going to pivot those left toes slightly back in again, so they're pointing a little bit more to the front, the short edge of the mat, than they are out to the left. And now we'll do revolving triangle, our second twist, so that we can get some motion to the other side. So bringing right hand onto the right hip, pressing firmly into the chair through the left hand. Compact your hips together like there's a big tight belt around your hips, squeezing them to midline. And then start to bring your left outer side ribs around out of the shadows. You may stack the arm if you like, otherwise keep working with your hand on your hip. You'll keep moving your right elbow toward the midline of your body. Beautiful poses. And then finishing out an exhale, you can inhale back to facing your chair. And now you decide if you're going to do full or half. You can do half right here where you are. You don't have to turn the chair around again. You can just be on your long arms. And if you're going to go into the full forward bend, you'll either start by bending the elbows, or some of us might be able to come down to the forearms. So you have to just kind of sense into the body what you can do, how far you can get. And then again, let your head go, let your head release. So let's give it 5 deep breaths. When you're ready to take your next inhale, you can just use that breath to help you start to come back up. Again, bring a little bend to your right knee, step your left foot forward. And again, remember when you're coming up to engage your abdominals, try not to roll up, and just put yourself in mountain pose for a couple moments. Release your shoulders. See if you can lift through the top of the head. Lengthen from the chin up to the base of the skull. Keep the chest lifted and spread. And if your feet relax, that's a good sign that they're balanced, first of all, if you can relax your feet. But also relaxed feet are bigger feet. Contracted feet, not relaxed feet, are smaller feet. So if your feet are relaxed, they're more expansive. You have more capital on the floor, and you can be a little bit steadier. But we can only relax the feet once we've aligned ourselves and we've balanced the weight bearing over the feet. Some of us sit to the outer edges of the feet. Some of us hang out in the heels. Some of us cling on our toes. We all have different weight bearing patterns. So you can notice where you tend to go, and then you can start to make the corrections. For instance, I always need to bring a little more weight into my big toe ball mounds and out of my heels. And then we'll check out second side for this. Just remind yourself, anytime we move into kind of repeating a set of poses, we are not usually balanced on our left and right side. So don't expect like you can go into like, I call it screensaver mode or autopilot. You have to still be sensitive throughout the practice. Yoga is really about unconditioning ourselves out of habitual behaviors. So we don't want to make our practice habitual. We want to always be very sensitive about it. So we're going to start with that back of the chair for the hand resting position or the wrist resting position. And what we're really trying to do is get the arms to become extensions of the torso. So as you can see, I'm trying to put my arms in line with my torso. I've stepped back far enough that I'm kind of at my edge, my physical edge. It might not be the same for you. So just be, again, sensitive to where you need to be. And we do tend to get a little shorter on the forward leg side. So if you were looking at your back body, would you see a banana? We don't want to be a banana. So your left side body, you're going to just keep rolling that left hip back to elongate the left side body to become equal to the length of the right side body. Okay, so we'll inhale and just safely step deeper into your left foot, bring your right foot forward. And for the next 3 pieces of this pose, we'll be using the seat of the chair. And this, now you can put the full 4 legs on your mat just so you don't go anywhere. We don't want that. And then you'll find your left foot under the chair, the right foot stepping back. So for the triangle pose, we have to do some turnout with the back foot toes because this pose we face off to the side. It's called a lateral pose where our legs are moving from the side out to the sides of our body. A little more turnout with that foot. You're going to be heavy on your left hand, right hand comes to the right hip. Your legs are straight for triangle pose. And remember that left knee probably wants to rotate in, so just keep a little awareness on keeping your left knee pointing at your left toes. Try to roll your left side ribs out of the shadows toward either the side of your room or even toward the ceiling. And watch out for dangling crown syndrome. I don't see anybody doing it, but don't forget that you have an exit point for the line of energy that begins at the tailbone. The exit point is through the crown of your head, the highest ridge of the skull. Shoot a nice laser beam out through the crown of your head. Lengthen too, so lift through the crown of your head. And then take one more nice deep in breath. And then the exhale, we can gently turn back toward the chair, and you can turn those right toes slightly in again so that you're able to square your hips. So now we'll go into revolving triangle. We'll keep the right hand down. We have to really squeeze or hug the hips toward each other. Left hand to your left hip. And on an exhale, start to gently turn your chest to the left. You might notice you're kind of poking out into your outer left hip. So really hug that outer left hip bone inward. It will help stabilize the legs when you do. And remember the crown of the head lift there. If you had a big bun on the top of the head, someone pulling it, you want to kind of feel that amount of lifting through the top of the head. And again, your choice to add the arm. If you take the arm up and it strengthens the pose, that's a sign that that's a good move for you. If you take the arm up and it kind of makes the pose feel kind of more oppressive, then keep the hand on the hip, keep working the elbow toward midline. All right, finishing an exhale. You're going to lengthen back on an inhale to face your chair. And your choice here, is it a good choice for you to stay with that flat or concave lumbar today? Maybe you've been doing a lot of gardening and you don't need more deep flexion. Maybe you're ready to go deeper. So your choice, you'll either stay on your long arms or you start to bend the elbows. You might come onto your forearms. I want you to kind of remember here, we didn't talk about this on the right, but you're attempting to align your torso with your forward leg. So we want to be, our breastbone lined up with our left leg is the relationship here. We're just going to linger in 5 deep exhales. And by linger, I just mean really try to track the breath to its finish. One way that we kind of keep ourselves anxious is we don't fully exhale. So we can kind of optimize or hack the parasympathetic nervous system by just taking our exhales to completion. You're going to finish up the next exhale. And when you're ready to inhale, use that breath to lift you up to help kind of lengthen the spine, bring some extra weight into your left foot and your right foot forward, and bring yourself all the way up. We'll come back to your mountain pose. So whether or not your feet are together or up to hip distance apart, you still want to have your second toes lining up with your heels. And we want to have as much broadness between the big toe ball mounds and the small toe ball mounds as we can. So I like to lift my toes off the ground, then I spread them apart, and then I put them on the ground. And then I feel a little bit more broad and expansive across my feet. And we don't have to willfully do anything with the breath. Just notice how it shows up. After we do a pose, the breath is usually a bit quicker, it might be louder, it might be any number of things really. So notice, rather than try to control the breath, just notice and also allow. So don't try to make it quieter, don't try to make it slower. And it will smooth out, it will become a smooth breath again if it's ruffled up or ragged. All right. So the next pose we're going to do is just a lunging kind of set, very similar to what we just did, except the forward leg knee will be bent. So it's very much the same 4 kind of variations. First being on our tall arms. We're going to have our right, we're still working with the seat of the chair for all 4 of these. So you can just keep your chair as it is. Right foot forward, left foot back. The difference here is that the back foot heel is off the floor, meaning the back foot toes are pointing straight toward the chair, just like the front foot toes are. You have enough room that you can take your right knee above your right ankle. And then you might need to adjust your chair just so your arms really feel right underneath you, that you're not putting the arms on an angle. And again, be on your fists if your wrists are aggravated with the deep flexion. And then I want you to just kind of bring your eyeballs forward. Good. So you're getting a nice amount of extension to your spine. And reach out through your left heel. We want your left leg as straight as it can be. And we do a little bit of kind of preventative resistance in our hips, we all do. So see if you can just kind of soften into your right hip crease rather than resist there. So if you're feeling kind of a preventative limiting feeling in your right hip, see if you can just kind of sink a bit deeper. And now very similarly to how we worked with the straight legs, we're coming into side angle pose. You'll stay on your right hand. You're going to pivot your left foot to put the heel down. So your left toes now point out to the left a little. You're going to start to move your left hand onto your left hip. And you're going to start to point your chest to the left. So this is our side angle pose. If you want to include the arm in this pose aligns with the ear. And that doesn't mean that we push the head down. It means you have to really bring your ear to your arm so that your crown doesn't dangle. And you know that right knee, it wants to droop inward, so you got to magnetize it out a little bit toward the right edge of your mat. So I've said this before, I believe, but I like to repeat myself. When we are in integrity in a pose, one of the signs of that, one of the markers, is that we kind of have, what's that word? When you're aware of all things at once, we have a full body awareness. Is it omniscience? I forget. It was high school that we learned those words. Anyway, your awareness kind of fills your whole body. One clue, so we're coming out of it, by the way, back to your chair. One clue that something's off is if your attention is kind of lingering in one particular spot in your body. That can be a clue that something is off or overwhelmed or underwhelmed. So we have to kind of pay attention to where our attention is. It's very meta. Pay attention to the attention. So you're back to both hands down. You're still lunging. Your heel is back off the ground. We'll keep it off now. And we're going to revolve this pose as well. So you'll keep your left hand on the chair. You're going to take your right hand to your right hip. Use the elbow as a tool here. So squeeze your right elbow toward the center of the body, toward the spine, because it wants to poke out the other way. That's going to help you start to revolve the chest. And now your right knee wants to go wide. I want you to squeeze your right knee in a little bit. And shoot a laser beam out through the crown of the head. Just get a few more good squeezes out of the exhales. Remember, this is all going to play into a deeper forward bend. And when you come through the next exhale, you can inhale and lengthen back to facing your chair. And now, just like we did earlier, you have the option to just be back on your long arms, or you could bend elbows, or you can come to your forearms. But we're going to be in that same lunging position. Lots of deep hip flexion for the right hip. Pay attention to fully extending your left leg, and just let your head relax. And now you're going to inhale and start to use your hands to the seat of the chair to come up. You might slide your right foot back and your left foot forward. It's your choice how you get out of there. Make it safe, make it gentle. And then you can gently help yourself up to standing. You're just coming into a mountain for a couple breaths. Making that outer body compactness happen. The alignment of the skeleton happen. The feet are balanced, they're relaxed. The feet are really our ambassadors between our bodies and the earth. So whatever the feet are doing, the entire body up above is going to have the same message. The feet are tight, tense, the body will take on that same kind of attitude. So the feet really represent, they kind of initiate the whole structure above. And now we'll check in with side two, and again, clear your slate. your mental slate, don't assume anything is going to be true just because it happened on the right. So we'll start with the kind of the long arm position, the lunging left knee, the right leg extended. You're trying to put your left knee above your left ankle. And just kind of work into a straighter right leg and soften into your left hip space. Look forward. So you're going to keep your hands down, but just think about your inner upper arms winding towards the outer upper arms. And this helps your chest kind of come forward. It helps keep a lift and a spread to the chest. To rotate the inner upper arms forward and around to the outer upper arms. Now we're going to gently pivot to grounding the right foot. You're going to keep your left hand down on your chair. Start to move your right hand to your right hip for the side angle pose. And then begin to rotate from the left side body to the right side body. And Laura, nice bringing the arm up, just put it next to your ear now. There. And we don't want to be taking a nap. I didn't say this on the other side, but don't take a nap on your left shoulder. Make sure you have a lengthened out left side neck, that you're not just taking a nap on the shoulder there. Lengthen through the crown. And remember, the knee likes to cave in here, so press the outer knee toward the left edge of your mat. Wonderful. Start to turn back toward your chair, and you can pivot back off of the right heel. Put yourself back in a lunging stance. And now we're going to stay down on the right hand side. We want to squeeze the hips to midline, to squeeze them together. Take your left hand to your left hip. And now on this side, the knee likes to push out. So you have to bring some weight to your big toe ball mound on the left to keep your knee pointing at your toes. Start to rotate your spine to look to the left. Every exhale, it's like wringing out a dish rag. The spine goes deeper. So squeezing out those breaths, really coming to completion on your exhales. Try to move the left hip bone to midline. And when you come to the next end of the next exhale, you can inhale to lengthen back to facing your chair. And you're going to set up your final pose. Maybe it's back on your long arms. Maybe you're going to bend the elbows. Maybe you're able to come to the forearms. We'll just take those 5 deep breaths here. And after an exhale, just initiate coming up by looking forward, moving weight into your hands. Again, you may do a combination of sliding the left foot back and the right foot forward, or coming up another way. So it's gentle, it's friendly, it's non-harming. Come up to standing. Think about that wall behind you. And also, if you were standing off to the side of your body, would you see your shoulders, hips, and heels on the same line? We're trying to bring shoulders, hips, and heels into alignment. So last but not least, we'll do a wide standing forward bend. Very same theme, those 4 versions. And we'll be using the length of the mat out to the sides just so we can take the feet a little wider. And the chair in front of us, seat of the chair in front of you. So go to your wide standing, whatever it is. I know for all of us, it's not the same. Just take your feet out wider than your hips, but you still want to have your toes in line with your heels. When the feet are out wide, we tend to push out. So a couple things I want you to be aware of is rolling weight back to your big toe side of your foot, and also pulling the outer ankles in, which might be more in your mind than actually feeling that, which in yoga, that's how we learn, is we imagine things first and then we can start to actually feel them happening. So first version, we're gonna have that long kind of torso. So you're gonna push your chair forward. And you're just attempting to lengthen forward as well as you can, but we're not bringing the hips forward. So your hips stay in the same kind of plane as the heels. We don't want the hips in front of the heels or behind the heels. And your head just releases down. Remember, the arms should kind of feel like extensions of your torso. Just a couple more breaths. On an inhale, start to look forward. Hopefully you can slide your chair closer. Make sure you have a couple of the feet on your mat so that you know you're not going to go anywhere. And we'll put our left hand to the center of the seat of the chair. Left hand goes right in the middle, so it's kind of right under the line of your breastbone. And then your right hand comes onto your hip. And remember, use that elbow like a tool. So squeeze your elbow toward the midline, which will help roll the shoulder back. It's going to help initiate the chest turning on an exhale to the right. So you can go ahead and start to turn. Your eyes can follow. Our eyes are very suggestive to the spine, so it's important to always consider your gaze and how it's factored into what you're doing, what you're telling the body to do. And try to connect the dots, tailbone out through the highest ridge of your skull. Lengthen, remember that bun at the top of the head, someone imaginary is pulling gently. Good, come back gently to center, facing down. You're going to transfer your right hand now onto the chair. So just like your feet, the hands, we want to really grow the width between the four fingers. However, the thumb joint, actually it's harmful to spread it the full distance from the index. So the safest, because in yoga, if we repeat things, we don't want to repeat and cause injury eventually. The safest position for your thumb is about half of its full expanse from the index is the best thing you can do for your thumb joint. So we're going to take the left hand under the hip. We're going to use the elbow, squeeze it into midline. And you have this little tripod, 2 feet, 1 hand. Try to evenly distribute and press down through the feet, the hand, and rotate the spine to look off to the left. You're not napping on your right shoulder, so pressing down enough through the hand that your shoulder is signaled to go down. Oftentimes shoulder is like, what do you want me to do? I'm not sure if I'm going up or down. Shoulder goes down. Then you have a nice neck and you have a nice amount of spaciousness coming into the body. Finish your exhale. And then you're going to inhale, lengthen back to facing that chair seat. And here's where we go deep. So it might be bent elbows. It might be like Laura, you might be able to just skip the chair. Laura's been in many of my classes, including my more advanced classes for many years. So I know she can probably take her head lower than the chair. But then if that's the case for you too, that's an option. If you'd like to stay on the chair seat, you might come onto your forearms. And we are just attempting to get the head to point down. So even if it's not touching down, we want the crown of the head pointing down. And same for you, Sue. Sue Laufenberg also, you might be able to bring your head down. So I want everybody to look at their knees, wherever they are. This is another one where the knees knock. So find a way, just play with moving gentle articulations of the leg so that your knees start to look more at the toes and less at each other. Okay, so we're gonna start to come up. Gently start to move on to the hands, look forward. From the wide stance, I like to heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe. Walk in until my feet are underneath my hips, and you're gonna come up. And one last time, just holding mountain pose. It's not gonna be a long one, but just putting yourself back together in this upright way. Drop the shoulders. One way we can drop the shoulders is just imagine heavier fingertips, or sometimes imagine your fingertips have little tension lines running from the fingertips to the floor, and you're just tightening those lines. This can be a nice way to release your shoulders down. And then you're gonna just kind of let the limbs go, shake them out. And we're gonna finish up in one seated forward bend we're gonna go through. And again, it's the same way. So this is where we'll use the strap. If you have a strap, if you don't, it's not gonna be crucial, but it is helpful. So we'll do Marichyasana, which is a pose named after an ancient Indian sage, Marichi. And when poses are named after sages, they were said to have the practitioner kind of embody the qualities of the sage. I don't know what those qualities are for Marichi, but I do love the pose, so maybe that's a clue. So first thing we're gonna do is with our feet right underneath, with our heels right underneath our knees, you're gonna extend your left leg. So you're resting on the heel. Your left toes are up like you're letting off the gas pedal. And we're gonna do the half forward bend, grabbing the chair behind us. So this will help, yeah, you can just leave your strap for a moment. We won't use it till the very end, actually, the last fourth version. So with your hands behind you, you're kind of ensuring that your chest stays forward, which is very important in forward bends. And we're gonna only be able to move forward a certain amount with our hands behind us. So inhale, sit up tall, and exhale, lead with your chest. You might only move a millimeter. So don't worry about how far you are, how close you are to that left foot. You're just gonna come forward with this nice spaciousness, shoulders rolling back, chest leading. So one thing to know in forward bends, the only thing that moves forward or stays forward in the body is the chest. Everything else, we want to kind of feel it moving from the front body to the back body. The other thing we want to remember in forward bends is that we're not leading with our chins. This can be a very kind of sneaky thing the body does to make you feel like you're in deeper. You're just misaligning your skull. You're not actually in a deeper forward bend. So make sure that, and sometimes you have to touch your neck to feel the difference of your chin leading versus your head in alignment. You can feel the difference of the neck. So sometimes touching the body, you can kind of have more of a clue of where that skull is. Okay, so that's version number one. We're going to stick with this leg position. We'll stay with the sides. So you can come back upright. We're going to be twisting to both sides now. So hold on to the right seat of the chair. Inhale the left arm. And then exhale, put the left hand on the right palm, on the right thigh. And slide your right hand so it's right in the center. You're probably touching your sacrum or the middle of your butt. And then gently turn. So we've done a lot of twists today, so we don't have to be here very long to still feel a nice forward bend effect. So now we're going to inhale out of it. You can release your left hand to just kind of sit next to you on the chair. Right arm is going to go up now. And on an exhale, right hand finds left thigh and left hand moves right behind you. So it's centered. And we don't want to be reaching back because then the arm is at an angle and we tend to lean back. So have your hand physically touching as close to your butt as you can. Take a few good breaths, twisting the spine to the left. And again, inhale, lift yourself out of it. And now we're going to take the strap and place it to the sole of the left foot. And it goes right beneath the big toe ball mound, the small toe ball mound. And I want you to just wrap your hands so that you don't have to squeeze that strap so hard. You can just kind of secure it over the knuckles. And I want you to start with your elbows under your shoulders. So again, this is going to be a position that helps you keep your chest forward. Take an in breath here. And on your exhale, lengthen forward. Lead with your chest, not your chin. Remember, you're aligning your torso with that left leg. So your breastbone, it should be kind of more steering toward the left. Good. And inhale, come up. And exhale. All right, so we'll put the strap aside until we get to that last part. And we'll go ahead and extend the right foot. So we all have different chairs, we all have different bodies. You might find that you need to elevate your heel onto some sort of a block. If you're having trouble with the straight leg, sometimes we have to modify the pose so that they work with the props that we have. Okay, so hold the back of the chair. Take an in breath here. And exhale, lead with your chest, but try to sense that your skull is staying in alignment with the spine. You didn't throw your head 5 feet in front of the spine. Just kind of dipping in and imprinting the body with good, wise actions. Inhale, come back out of it. Okay, we'll place the left hand next to the left hip. Inhale, raise the right arm. And exhale, twisting to the left. So again, you're just going to place the hand behind you and as close to your butt as you can. We're going to inhale out of it and directly to side two. So raise both arms. Exhale, left hand comes to right thigh, right hand behind you. Inhale back to center. And place the strap one more time to the sole of the right foot. Wrapping the hands and elbows stay in line with the shoulders. Inhale, be nice and tall here. And then exhale, hinging forward. Try to align the trunk over the right leg as best you can. Make sure to lengthen from the chin to the base of the skull. That's one way to kind of correct the alignment of the skull. You guys look great. And then you're going to inhale up. And you can bend your right knee. Put your strap aside. We're going to sit quietly, just kind of receive whatever residuals there are from this practice. So use the back of the chair at this point. This final pose of yoga class is really supposed to be as passive as possible, as physically passive as possible. So different than sleep, we stay very conscious. So we're very aware of the body. That doesn't mean we're engaging with our thoughts. It just means we're aware. We're aware of the breath, the body, the thoughts. We're aware of all of it. Everything going on outside of us, inside of us. We don't have to engage though. That's the good news. So hands are resting on your thighs. Your body is as surrendered as can be. And we're not tilting our chin down, but you are going to look down. And again, this is just to signal the brain to become more passive. You can think about awareness as the blue sky, and thoughts are like the clouds. Thoughts are like the weather. But that big blue sky is always there, even if there's clouds obscuring it. And after a practice, we have more access to that expansive state of awareness. Just take the next 5 breaths and just bear witness. No, you don't have to control the breath in any way, just bear witness. Riding the waves of your breath with your attention. Let's join our hands together in front of the heart. Just take a moment to acknowledge any effects you sense from this practice. Take a moment to be grateful. Let's breathe in through the nose, nice and deep, and let it go. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. All right. Well, thank you, Kathy from Lake Huron, for joining us. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your week. And I'll be sending out the recording later. So if you didn't request it already, let me know and I'll send it to you. All right. Bye.